Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Candidates Corner. This is Greater Seattle's Korean Association's interview with our candidates and electeds. And today we're very pleased to have Janis White with us. Hello, Janis. Welcome.
Hi, Sam. Thanks so much for having
Yeah,
me.
of course. And Janis is running for Seattle School Board District 5. And just wanted to share just a little bit about Janis's background and also her platform. So Janis, our viewers are very curious to know perhaps just a little bit about your background, if you wouldn't mind. Okay.
Absolutely. My name is Janis White, and as Sam said, I'm running for Seattle School Board in District 5. I have lived in the Madrona neighborhood of Seattle for 27 years and raised 3 children there. My children are now all in their 20s, and they all went to Seattle Public Schools from kindergarten through 12th grade. I'm also a lawyer, and I've been practicing law for over 40 years, and I do trial work. So I'm used to asking questions to get the information that I need in order to make decisions, which I think is a useful skill for someone on the school board. A little bit more about my background. I've been involved in our schools ever since my children started in Seattle Public Schools. With my oldest child who went to TOPS K-8 in the Eastlake neighborhood. I got involved on the site council and served as president of site council for TOPS K-8. I served on a district-wide transportation task force as a parent representative. I got involved in advocacy work, helping to organize a citywide alternative schools coalition to advocate to the school board to help promote alternative schools throughout the city to provide alternative education models for families. And because I have a child with a disability, I have a child who's autistic, I also got involved in special education advocacy work. And I served for 2 years as president of the Seattle Special Education PTSA, which is a citywide PTSA helping families who have children with disabilities navigate the special education system through Seattle Public Schools.
Great. Thank you, Janis. Um, why did you decide to run for Seattle School Board? Yeah.
Sure. Well, the current school board director for District 5 is not running for re-election, so there was an open seat. And I've been involved in the school district, as I said, for almost 20 years. I've been attending school board meetings, testifying at school board meetings, and in the state legislature on a variety of educational topics. And over that time, I've come to believe that there are 3 qualities that really make somebody an effective school board director. One is having community roots, deep roots in the community, which I have as a 27-year resident of the Madrona neighborhood. The second is having a direct connection and involvement in our schools and an understanding of how our school system operates. I have that too, having put 3 children all the way through Seattle Public Schools from kindergarten through 12th grade, and having been involved as a parent advocate on a variety of issues, everything from school closures to alternative education to transportation to special education. And the third thing is having a passion for improving the experience for our children, for all of our children. And I have that too, especially in my work around improving the provision of services for kids with disabilities. When I was president of the Seattle Special Education PTSA, as just one example, we published a guide to special education in Seattle Public Schools, a 20-page guide. We got it translated into the top 10 languages spoken by families in the district, and we made it available for free, both on our website digitally and also in printed copies. And I personally went to about 50 schools around the city to present the guide and talk to families and to staff about the guide and the suggestions in the guide for how families and staff can work together to make sure that our children with disabilities get the services they deserve and are entitled to and get the best education possible in our system.
Amazing, Janis. Thank you so much. And then finally, if elected, what would you say kind of are some of your top priorities?
Sure, I would love to talk about that. So I'm going to talk about three. So I think the first priority that anyone running for school board in Seattle really needs to be talking about is the budget. Because we've had budget deficits for at least the last 3 years, and they're very significant budget deficits. And we need to stop putting Band-Aids on those budget deficits and figure out how to develop a more fiscally sound district. And so the first thing I would say about that is that we need, before we can make the tough budget decisions that we may need to be making, we need more transparency for the community. So the first three things I would want to do is, one, bring back the school board's finance committee, a regular committee of the school board that really digs into the financial issues in the district, including the budget. And I believe that that committee should either include as ex officio members, these would be members without a vote, or set up a separate advisory committee of people from the community who have financial expertise and time to review data to help the school board directors understand the financial position of the district. We need that so that members of the community and people in the community also really understand the finances of the district and will understand the kinds of decisions we may need to make in the future to balance our budget. The third thing that I think we need to do right away is bring back more robust reporting to the school board about spending in the district. I don't think the school board can make responsible budgeting decisions without understanding how we're spending the money that we have. And so I want to bring back regular reporting to the school board about the different departments in the district, what they do, what their budgets are, what their staffing is, the results they're getting for students, how much money they're actually spending, and benchmarking against other nearby districts, how they organize those tasks, and benchmarking against other similarly sized districts elsewhere in the country, so that we can make sure that we're spending our money the right way and that we're getting the most we can for the money that we have. So that's what I think we need to do initially with respect to the budget. Now, there are some, and this would include my opponent in this race, Vivian Song, who testified about a year ago to the school board that she believed the school board should vote no on the budget and instead ask the state to come in and provide financial oversight. And that's a state process in which the state would come in and would appoint an administrator who would then be able to make decisions for our community about the budget. And I don't agree with that. I think we need to increase community transparency and make sure that it's our community making the tough budget decisions that we may have to make down the road, but we should not be handing that over to a state-appointed administrator. So that's an area in which I think she and I would disagree. Second area I would like to talk about is disability and special education. Because of course that is an area I've spent a great deal of time on as a parent advocate. A lot of people don't realize that over 20% of our students in Seattle Public Schools have a disability. Now, some of them have not yet been recognized as having a disability, but this past year we had 17% of our students receiving what are called special education services through IEPs or individual education programs. We had another group of students with a 504 plan. That's under the Americans with Disabilities Act, and that enables them to have accommodations to help them learn in school. And then we also had students who hadn't yet been identified as needing either an IEP or a 504 plan. I'm confident that if you added all those groups together, we would be at over 20% of our total student body. And for much too long in Seattle, we have had a system of delivery of special education services that has segregated too many of our children with disabilities into separate classrooms. And I believe that most of those children would do much better learning alongside their general education peers who don't have disabilities. There is decades of research around the country that says that this is true. And we have demonstration sites around the state here in Washington where there is a statewide initiative to increase what are called inclusionary practices. So we have examples of schools in the state where these practices are being implemented with great results. And I want to see us do that in Seattle. And I don't think we can flick a switch, but I think we need to have a plan, and it's way past time for us to move away from the system we have, which segregates too many of our children with disabilities, and instead build a more inclusive program where children with disabilities are learning alongside their non-disabled peers. And then the third area I want to just talk about really briefly is student safety and student mental health. And I will say that I have a lot of experience with this on a personal level. I have two children who graduated from Garfield High School, and during the 8 years that I had children at Garfield, there were many incidents where there were shelters in place, or we received texts about problems in the neighborhood. I also have a child who went to Ingram High School and was right down the hall when a student was shot and killed in the school about 3 years ago. So I have experience with this safety issue. I understand families' concerns. And I think we need to listen to our students who, after the shooting at Ingram, came forward and said what was needed was more mental health support for students in our schools. We need to get more school counselors, more therapists, more opportunities for students to receive support from trusted adults in school. And we need more community, we need more partnerships with community organizations that help to interrupt violence in our schools and near our schools. And those would be my priorities.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Janis, for sharing your vision. Thank you, viewers, for listening in. This is Janis White, Seattle School Board, Position 5 on your ballot. Thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye now.